Welcome, everybody. John Zager. Good morning, everybody. How are you all? It's a beautiful day here in Colorado. What is the temp? 54 degrees. It was a nice evening. I got up early today. I was up at 3:30. Wow. Must have had stuff going on. Kind of have a little interesting topic for today. I've got a couple thoughts going through my head, but I want to talk about, are we thinking about what we want, or are there thoughts running in the background? This is similar to what I was doing a podcast on a couple, 2-3 days ago, but it's still different, and kind of want to go through it. Coffee's good this morning. So pick an example. The example might be the poor person who lives in lack. Okay? So let's say, for instance, poor person is, what's the example I use all the time? Living in the back of their truck. 10 years. And nothing seems to be getting any different. What's going on with that and why? And again, we're just going to use this one example. You can take the example and compare it to anything else that's kind of going on in your mind, and there'll be similarities. So it's just an example is all it is, you guys. So why is that person staying in lack for 10 years? Let's say average, above average intelligence, came from a fairly successful life previous, career, work. But for some reason got stuck in lack. So we want to first go back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and how true that book is. Wow. I listened to his YouTube yesterday. I think his first name's Robert, and I think he's on Shark Tank, that show, but I can't pronounce his last name, so I apologize for that. But what he says in the book is that kids that grow up in rich families with rich dads are just taught success, how to make money, how to have self-confidence. They're empowered. They don't see problems, but rather they see an issue in terms of it's going to happen. I'm going to get through it. It's just a matter of which way do I want to go to get through it. What's another way to say that? A lot of people will see problems around certain areas of their life, and they'll just stop. And they'll think, I can't do that. And the kid who grows up in a rich family, rich dad, will answer that issue with, I know I'll get through the problem. It's just a matter of which way do I want to do it. Whereas the poor kid, rich dad, poor dad, he'll just see a problem in his life and stop and say, I can't do that. The poor kid is taught, and this is in the book, right? The poor kid is taught and modeled from probably mom and dad and family and whatnot, just that, you know, you have to work real hard, and it's matter changing matter, and you might have to get a second or third job, and you know, life is tough, and you try to, you know, do what you can to maintain the status quo, survive. And there's never enough money, and rich people are negative. You know, we don't like rich people. And the poor kid is not necessarily empowered, is not taught self-confidence, is not taught how to make money. Probably becomes fairly proficient at surviving, provided that parents survived financially and everything. And just the whole concept of everything's a struggle. And so the voices in the back of the poor kid's head is voices of, you know, I really can't do that. I need to be realistic and find a job in construction, something I might physically be able to do to make just regular pay. I could never do that job. It's above me. When I look at jobs in the paper, when we used to look at jobs in the paper, that's pretty funny. Nowadays, it's not so much. They used to list how much the job paid, believe it or not. You know. And the poor kid just wouldn't even look at jobs over, I don't know, what would be a minimal amount of money. Because the poor kid just would think, I'm not qualified to do a job that pays that much money. Sad, 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 sad. So we look at why 10 years living in the back of your truck. And you go out in the beginning and you get a job at Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's, I don't know, or Kmart or some box store. Can be any box store. And you're working for, shoot, I don't even know what they pay. Probably, let's say if this is in the last 10 years, probably $8, $9, $10 an hour. So you have a limited income. It's a job you probably think you can qualify for, and you envision maybe working yourself up to a department head over sporting goods or electronics or something, or you become an assistant manager to one of those departments. And you think you might get yourself up to, maybe after a few years you might get up to $12 an hour. I don't know what the pay is. I'm just throwing numbers in there. And you might get benefits after, I don't know, a year or something. They probably don't give you benefits right away because of the turnover. So there's a little voice that goes on in the back of your head coming from Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're somewhere back there in the program, along with all the disempowerment and you're not good enough and you're just going to survive and, all that negative stuff. It says for the rest of your life, that's how it's going to be. There's a little voice in the back of your head, and you're not quite sure where it came from. But it says, you could do better. You could do better. You're more qualified than wasting your time for a limited, fixed income at a company that you really can't go anywhere. And you don't have any idea where that comes from. But you do have your own dignity and self-respect. And people that become managers, now this is my personal opinion, people that become managers in box stores have never been trained to be managers. Oh, they might go to a week training here or a week training there, but, there's no schooling for that. So what comes out is emotions, raw emotions. And now this is the manager, okay? And it comes out in the form of, how can I get this square peg to go through this round hole? So because they have no formal training in management or supervision, they treat you in a lesser viewed capacity. They see you as beneath them, less than them. You're the employee, they're the boss. They make the decisions. It doesn't matter if the decision that they're making is totally wrong and a waste and the wrong approach, and it just doesn't matter. They see themselves as smarter than what they really are. And it's really just an issue of they're ignorant because they haven't been trained, right? Ignorance is just, not having the acquired knowledge you need to have. And so the poor person who's now the employee at the box store just feels abused and beat up and insulted and demeaned and every negative thought you could have, which just reinforces the fact that, they're not capable of being in a better position or dreaming of something better. And this just solidifies all that I've been taught my whole life. This is who I am. I'm an $8 an hour man or girl. But in the background, what's going on is that somebody, while growing up, actually said, you're a pretty good kid. You're going to go somewhere. You're going to make yourself something. Gave this person some kind of positive statement. And the poor kid just really felt good about it. And the emotion stuck. And he or she continued to recall that statement for years to come. And so gets fed up with working at the box store and being mistreated. Obviously, you can go to the here's the funny part. Obviously, you can go to the manager, another manager, or another supervisor who has the same amount of no education, and you could, file a complaint or complain to them about, mistreatment from a manager elsewhere in the store. And of course, they're going to react the same way. They're going to defend the other manager because, that's what they're supposed to do, is defend their own kind. Not say to the employee, let's sit down and talk about it. Tell me what's going on. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what's going on at home. Tell me more about your personal life, and maybe there's a way we could get people together in order to work through this issue and find a way to empower you, because we want you to be a long-term employee. Unheard of. Totally unheard of. I've worked in psychology for my entire life. And way back in the beginning, there might have been some glimpses of what I'm saying going on. But it's more the negative stuff that I'm saying rather than the positive. Managers, supervisors, bosses are concerned about themselves. At the expense of the employee. Employees are expendable. We can go through them all day long as long as I survive. As opposed to, let's sit down. What's going on? Your production has gone down. You're having more difficulties than you had when you first started. Are there problems at home? Is there anything personal you might want to share with me where we can find a way to maybe work on some of that stuff and empower you and get you into a better state of mind so that you can be a long-term employee of ours. We would like to have you stay. And that's going to require, us working together. The employee from the abuse just wants out. And without the skills and the skill level to go through the process I just talked about in a healthy way, the poor employee, rich dad, poor dad, just quits, walks out of the store. The poor employee just makes a scene, creates a problem to where they fire him or her because doesn't have the tools to handle dealing with the issue, was never taught those tools. Rich kid, coming from rich dad, has the tools, understands how you go about negotiating or dealing with issues that are uncomfortable. It's not a matter of this isn't going to work out. It's a matter of, which tools do I use to get through a difficult time? Which tools do I use that I was taught? It goes on to talk about that's your lot in life. The poor kid's going to be poor his entire life, no matter how hard he or she tries to get ahead. The rich kid, irregardless, is going to become rich, wealthy, and successful because the way he was taught and brought up. What a sad thing. So back to our poor person living in the back of the truck for 10 years and trying to work at a box store in the early years, thinking that's a way to get out of my predicament. Mattered changing matter, because that's what mom and dad did. They both worked, and they both worked, might have been 2 jobs. Who knows? But the poor kid reverts back to, I'll just work. And then gets the thought that maybe I'm better than this, but has no clue what to do with that. Has no clue how do I how do I get out of this box store and into a life of more abundance and success? No tools. Goes on for years. Let's say the box store stuff was the first couple years. And for the next 5 years or whatever, I'm just making up numbers, but for the next 5 years tries to become somebody, an entrepreneur, someone who's self-employed, manages their own affairs, produces their own income, takes all the online courses, tries to get up to speed, and just doesn't seem to make it. Gaining on it just might take another lifetime or two to acquire enough of that information to become successful. Because you're having to reparent yourself. You're having to reprogram yourself. You're having to write new scripts to yourself of empowerment and inspiration and success and confidence. Just all those things that the rich kid was gifted with growing up. So, once we get to the point where we're clear, we're not going to be working at box stores or $8 an hour jobs and, be mistreated, which is what happens because of poor management, supervision, and ownership. Once we get to the point where we're going to be responsible for ourselves and our well-being in all the different aspects that entails, but and no matter how hard we struggle with that direction, there's always that voice that in the subconscious that we don't necessarily hear. It's running in the background. And it's saying, you're not good enough for this. You're not smart enough for this. You're not capable of doing this. Look it, you've been working at this for X amount of time and you haven't succeeded. Just quit. Just give up and do nothing or go back to the $8 an hour job. You don't need to struggle anymore. Just sit in some parking lot somewhere. Feel sorry for yourself because you're not going to make it. You didn't grow up with rich dad, rich family. You weren't given those skills. You don't have them and you're not going to acquire them. It's just not going to work. I may not have done a good job with those phrases, but there's just negative scripts running in the background. kind of like there's this program running in the background that you can't hear. Your mind hears it, your body hears it, but you consciously are not hearing it. And that's the thing that's sabotaging your success. Now, if you could go from poor kid to out-of-the-box stores to wanting to be responsible for yourself and successful, and you're going through all the steps in educating, empowering, inspiring yourself, you got to have a clear mind without the negative program running in the background. So here's the takeaway. Long story to get to a final takeaway. The takeaway is simple. The takeaway is doable. Takeaway is hard. Every single negative thought that enters the conscious side, you have to stop it before it goes any further. And you need to substitute a positive, empowering, inspiring thought in its place. Nobody is going to do it for you. You're not going to be able to sit at a therapist's office, go to a mental health center and get a counselor and sit with them 8-10 hours a day and process your thinking so that you're catching everything. You can do it on your own. There's no magic to it. The conscious thoughts that are the negative ones, you can stop. And you have to stop. And you have to replace them with something positive. And if nothing else, you have to do that much. 24/7. 365 days a year. If you're able to do that, then the subconscious program running in the background will slowly, and this is science, will slowly start coming over onto the conscious side of your head. And you're already well equipped to catch them there. So now you become proficient and you're catching the program that's running in the background and you're shutting it off. Then you're free to be successful, be empowered, be inspired, be wealthy, be abundant, be healthy. God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.